Everyone has their favorite Zelda title as a kid. I mean, the game that you can go back and play a million times over again and again. And that's because Zelda is unique that way. It's a very special series to me because it was one of the first games that really stumped me as a kid. It was one of the first games that I actually played as a kid. Now imagine little JMak sitting in his gaming beanbag chair trying to figure out the water temple in Ocarina of Time. You know, just to have my brothers make fun of me continuously and just beat it for me. I was so impressed with my brothers, with their ability to even just beat a Zelda game as a kid. I found that so amazing. And that's the beauty of the game. With Zelda being a single player game, Miyamoto really wanted to design Zelda to make the game hard, but just hard enough to discuss the game with your friends and have such a huge social aspect of the game. Even many moons later with, you know, Breath of the Wild coming out now, people are still talking about the adventures they've had, the encounters they faced, talking about the quests that they did. I mean, Breath of the Wild is, if you think about it, such a social and multiplayer game in itself. I bet you anyone watching this video that has played Breath of the Wild, you've 100% you have explained to your friends an event that you did or had or just experienced at Breath of the Wild. And that's the beauty of the Zelda series, is the amazing format of the puzzles, the adventures, communicating and talking about the game, and the countless amounts of deaths. Speaking of dying a lot of times, I'm pretty bad at video games, and one of those video games being Super Smash Bros. As you guys can tell from all my montage clips, I'm very bad at Smash. That's why I make tier list videos, for Christ's sakes. Now I'm excited to announce that I've partnered up with Pro Guides, actually a service that I use personally for League of Legends because I'm also bad at League of Legends. Now they've launched an entire Smash Ultimate division where you can just go and watch and learn literally right now. If you click on the link in the description, my pinned comment, there'll be a link where you can just click on it and go. They've launched an entire course with Zero himself, the god of Smash. They released a dozen of different lessons, stats, tools, and you can go to Pro Guides right now with the link in the description, link in the pinned comment, and go there. And thank you, Pro Guides, for sponsoring this video. You're very nice. This is probably one of the few times I will sell out and actually promote a company, but I believe in it. So guys, go check out Pro Guides. Continue on to the video. Thank you. Now I want to start this tier list off. If you don't know already, this is a Zelda game tier list. I just want to say this is a personal tier list. There's honestly not really a bad Zelda game other than the ones that I'll talk about. There's really just not a bad Zelda game from what I can experience myself. Every Zelda game has its purpose, every Zelda game has its story, and every Zelda game is actually a pretty damn good Zelda game, except for like 2 of them, and we'll talk about those 2 Zelda games. But the first one I start off with is Zelda 1, the original Zelda, the one that came out and started the franchise as a whole. Now Zelda 1 actually was the game to inspire Breath of the Wild to become Breath of the Wild. Miyamoto actually created Zelda because he would explore caves as a kid. He wanted a sense of adventure and he wanted to encapsulate what he did as a kid and put it in a video game. Now with the limited technology that the NES had at the time, console gaming was very unique to players, and honestly the game itself doesn't age that well, but it's still challenging for brand new players who's never played Zelda 1. It still requires you to Google, it still requires you to like talk to your friends about the game. It still requires you to look up where the f***ing hearts are because you'll never know that. It still requires you to even look up where the 3rd sword is because you probably would have never guessed that there's a 3rd sword hiding in the gravestone. It took me years to figure that out, to be honest. The original Zelda game was super transformative. It was very good for the overhead gaming type style. It had a lot of adventures for such a limited space. It felt massive at its time, and I'm gonna have to give this game a D tier. Now, the only reason I'm giving this game a D tier is there's not a really like compelling story to this. I mean, you save the princess, yada yada yada, but that was such the general like story back then. You had Kung Fu where you had to save the princess. You had Mario, you had to save the princess. It was just the entire series of the NES style is just to save something. But the game itself is linear. At most times it's very impossible to find some of the caves, and I can't help to say, me feel man at the waterfall. Hope you get that.
Meet the old man at the waterfall.
Okay, you know what? Don't test me, woman. I got a sword, all you got is a campfire, okay? Just tell me what I want to know.
Meet the old man at the waterfall.
Okay, you know what? That is it. I'm gonna go Steve Irwin on your ass. Prepare for the stingray.
Oh.
Remember when I said that there's like 2 bad Zelda games? Well, this is one of them. Zelda 2, The Adventure of Zelda, is that bad Zelda game. Now, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me what this game actually is. I guess Miyamoto wanted to like explore the different aspects of Zelda. He kind of wanted to take part of the success of what all the NES titles were having, like Contra, Kung Fu, Mario, all the 2D side-scrollers were doing insanely successful, and I guess probably Miyamoto wanted to do the same, so that's why this game is a 2D scroller. It's very weird, to be honest. Like I said, it has 2D gameplay, and it actually has RPG elements in the game where you actually get XP points. That's weird. You actually cannot collect rupees. Like, one of the biggest things in Zelda is the rupees, the money system. You can't collect any of that. It's just not in the game. Now, I just want to think that this game was more of like a testing phase of Zelda, just trying to explore different elements of what Miyamoto kind of wanted to do, because his original thought process for Zelda was to be essentially an RPG game like Breath of the Wild. So Zelda 2 is probably just the experimental phase. So I'm going to put Zelda 2, Adventure of Link, at a hard D tier. Oof. Link to the Past took the original Zelda game and made it so much better. It took all the flaws the original game had and built upon it. It had the normal world, but it also had the mysterious dark side, the dark world to explore. Ooh, spooky. Now the gameplay was much more fluid. The dungeons were way better, significantly better. The art style was way better, and just the entire style of the game was just overall better. And now the story was actually there. This is the first game of the Zelda series where you're introduced to the Master Sword, the most iconic weapon in probably gaming history, to be honest. Master Sword is something that is like a staple of the Zelda series. It's on every cover art. It's everywhere. When you think of Zelda, you think of probably the Master Sword or Zelda's booty. Who knows? Now, like I said, the story is there, so it starts off with Link being some of the last descendants of the Knights of Hyrule. He gets a message in his big boy brain from Zelda when he's sleeping, and it's like, "Hey Link, ho! Save me!" And he's like, "Oh shit, I gotta save my girlfriend that I don't really know." Link is greeted with this man or thing called Agahim?
Ganon.
I'm bad with pronunciation. Anyway, he turns out to be a big bad dude. Ooh! And the only thing that can kill him is the Master Sword. So after when Ganon's like yeeted from the Dark Realm or something, and like reborn from Agahim, because that was like his plan, I think. I'm not entirely sure with the story, but Link sticks him with the pointy end of the Master Sword, kills his ass, well, not really, kind of sends him to the Sacred Realm, and restores light to the world. And that's essentially Link to the Past. And this game is just awesome, to be honest. It took everything that the original game had and just built upon it, and that's how you make a successful game. And I feel like this game kind of got Miyamoto to start thinking like, okay, I have something with this. I take the original game, I keep building upon it, we could do something. Now I'm gonna put Link to the Past at an A tier. I think that's a good, well-deserved A tier, to be honest. Ah yes, Link's Awakening. Now, this game is very interesting. This game is about Link awakening his Devil Fruit power of courage. Yes, his Devil Fruit. We're getting into One Piece at this point, where he has one single goal to destroy all the pots in the world, because pottery is a sin, and Link is the only one to stop the main man, Pottery. Yep, that's his name, Pottery. But in this game, basically you gather 8 instruments. One is definitely not a kazoo, kind of made me sad, but you have to awaken some big-ass dumb fish, and Link runs into nightmares, has a couple wet dreams about Ganon. Now this is the first Zelda game in the series where it's actually not in Hyrule. I didn't play this game as much as I should have, but now that it's getting remastered on the Switch, I'm crazy excited about it. I know not a lot about it, but I can still understand it. The 8 instruments is very unique because it's not gathering, you know, the Triforce like all the other games had, so that it actually had an objective. So I'm going to put this game at a B tier, a well-deserved B tier. Oh, baby. Now, Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time was probably the most famous or well-known Zelda game before Breath of the Wild. Whenever someone said Zelda, this game would immediately come to the majority of the fan base's mind. When you said Zelda, you either thought of Zelda or just Ocarina of Time, the game itself, because this game was a staple. I mean, it was the Zelda game. It was the Booyaka Booyaka 619 Rey Mysterio kick to the nuts powerhouse of a game. Ocarina was very transformative. It was the first 3D game of the Zelda series, including save points mid-world, which was pretty revolutionary for the N64. So the game kind of starts off like this. Link is casted away or forgotten about. He's growing up in Kokiri Forest with all like the weird Neverland kid type things who never age, And then this one big ass old dank tree is all like, I need me a young boy. That sounds weird. But he gets Navi to go send out to Link because he knows who Link is, like the prophecy, the hero. He needs him. Basically, you're trying to answer to this old ass tree's call, but then there's this ginger bitch boy like blocking you. And then, you know, 7-year-old JMak is spending like 37 days trying to find the sword and shield. And then when you finally get it, you enter the tree. You enter the guts of the tree and the music changes and it's horrifying. As a kid, you have all this happy music, green leaves and everything, and then you enter this tree and it's dark, it's mysterious, it's creepy. It's something just unsettling as a kid, and you know that this game is serious. You're in a temple, you're in some place that is important, and this game is honestly all about that. The music affects the mood, the environment affects the mood, everything about this game is perfect. It hits every point of the perfect game scale. When you enter the tree, you actually end up killing him. Yep, rip tree. You leave your girlfriend that you had, Saria. She gives you an ocarina that you basically forget about and like 2 more stones. And then you meet a new girlfriend. And then this old dude named Ganon watches you two kiss awkwardly. Ew. Now Zelda has this dream where she dreams of a boy from the forest to save the world and bring peace to Hyrule. And she thinks you're that one. And she's pretty much right. You're the hero of time. That's your quest and that's your destiny. She sends you out to get these stones to basically unlock the Temple of Time, but when you actually get the stones, go back and, you know, try to impress her with your big boy dick. She leaves the castle running because Ganon's trying to yeet her out, so she literally throws this ocarina like quarterback style. I mean, she would be amazing at football, like launches that thing into the water. Ganon strikes you, you get it, yada yada yada. And then the game starts. The real game starts. Then you get to do the adult stuff. You go back and forth from transitioning to kid to adult to kid to adult. And this was such a unique aspect to the entire Zelda game. Not to mention the actual ocarina itself. Learning the songs to warp and the Song of Storms to change and spin the windmill and unlock a whole new area is just insane. There's so much adventure, so much to explore. You get Epona in this game. You get to ride your horse around. It's massive. If you were like a 7-year-old in the 90s, I mean, it's a massive game. And this game actually has some of the greatest boss battles. Everyone hates Bongo Bongo, but I feel like that was a fun boss. And then you have the sisters. Those are really fun. You get to use the aspect of the mirror shield. You get to shoot fire at the ice one, ice at the fire one. It's really unique aspects of those types of fights that make this game really interesting. As a kid, you have the Goron dancing to What a Hot Beat. Awesome. You can make that a meme format, to be honest.
Oh man, so we back in the mine, got our pickaxe swinging from side to side, side to side. This task a grueling one, hope to find some diamonds tonight, diamonds tonight.
Then you have your girlfriend turning to a man when she forgets about you in 7 years. You're like, oh shit, dog, my girlfriend's a man now. And then you have the sand place. Like, there's so much I want to talk about this game. I could literally make an entire video, but you guys understand it if you've played it. If you haven't played this game, please play this game. Now I'm going to put this game at S+ because the only reason I want to do that, it's probably the most generic answer, is whenever you ask someone what's your favorite Zelda game, they're probably going to say Ocarina. I mean, that's a general consensus at this point. What's your favorite Zelda game? My favorite Zelda game is Ocarina. I mean, everyone's pretty much going to say that, other than like Breath of the Wild nowadays. But the reason I'm putting this at such a high S+ rank is because this game is the pivotal point of the entire story of Zelda. I mean, it creates 3 different timelines. One if Link was successful, one if Link was not successful, and then like an alternate like Majora type timeline or something like that. But it's a pivotal point. I mean, the hero of time is mentioned in Twilight Princess. It's mentioned in Wind Waker. It's mentioned all around the Zelda series. The hero of time is the Link. He was the most pivotal and most influential Link of the entire stories. He set everything in motion of the timeline splitting. He basically created Wind Waker if he was defeated by Ganon. That's an alternate timeline. So the reason I want to put this at the S+ top of the list is because how pivotal this game makes the story for all the future Zelda titles. And not only just that, it was transformative, it was challenging at times, like the Water Temple. My god, I hate the Water Temple. Looking for that one single key, it takes 100 years just to find it was under a block. But like, it was challenging at times, it had amazing soundtrack. Every single aspect of this game is so good in my opinion. Honestly, it deserves an S+ tier. and I hope you can agree with that. Now, Majora's Mask was the perfect successor to Ocarina. All that hype that I just talked about Ocarina, how can they possibly make something better? Well, you take Ocarina of Time, you copy it, and you paste it, and that's Majora's Mask. That is literally it. They reused all the same assets from Ocarina so they complete the game fast, efficiently, and cheap, which I don't blame them. They actually finished the game in a year's time, which is impressive on its own. It's not just a copy of the game because they changed some of the movement mechanics, they made it a little bit faster, they switched character roles, they used everything just insanely smart to save time and money and to create something beautiful. Majora has such a unique placement in the Zelda games because it's, in terms of objective, it's different. It's not just saving the princess, it's more life or, oh shit, this giant moon's gonna kill us. Now the story goes like this. It's a little bit different. It takes place right after Ocarina, right after the events when the hero was successful in sealing Ganon. So Linky Boy decides to go back in the forest to find the fairy Navi for some weird reason. I don't know why. I guess he really loved hearing Navi saying, hey, listen, every 5 minutes. So he goes in the forest. Now the story of the Lost Woods is if you get lost in the Lost Woods, you're lost forever. That's a lot of lost in one sentence. My goodness. But MatPat made a video about how Link has always been dead in Majora's Mask, and he explains it perfectly, but I'm not going to go super in depth. All you need to know is when you try to go to Lost Woods and you get lost, you lose yourself forever, essentially dying. In the beginning scenes, you're going through the forest, Skull Kid jumps you, steals your horse, and now you're met with a terrible fate. You've turned into a Skull Kid. You meet the Happy Mask Shop from the clock tower, and he tells you all about Majora's Mask and how powerful the mask is itself. And he basically tells you that there's no time, you have to get the mask back. And he puts this objective upon you, and now you have to save the world from a moon that has a face from crashing into the earth, or wherever, Hyrule, I guess. Using the masks in the game is very unique. You have all these different types of masks that affect the gameplay. You have the bomb mask, you have the dancing mask. How to actually obtain these masks, you have a bomber's journal that tells you specific times of the 3 days that you have to go out and do little event tasks. Like one of them is the first night you have to save the bomb bag lady from getting robbed. In exchange, she'll give you the bomb mask. It's very interesting to get them because you have to pay attention to the time. You could speed up the time, you can slow down the time, and if you mess up and the third day comes, you can restart back to day one. But you keep all your stuff. That's a big plot hole. We don't talk about that part. But with all of that, I truly believe that this Link is probably the most overpowered Link the entire game. Yes, another MatPat reference, but he makes a lot of good point. Link has so much equipment down to his bow, the ice arrow, fire arrow, light arrow, bombs, grapple, lens of truth, magic fairy sword, a giant fucking exploding keg. On top of all of that, the ability to turn into 3 different variations of the Deku Shrub, the Zoro, and the Goron, and then when you trade all those masks in at the end, you get to turn into Fierce Didi Link, which is probably the most overpowered thing in all of Zelda. The game has so much replayability value. You can go back so many different times and still forget how to get certain masks. If I go back today, I'm not going to remember how to beat like half the game, and I used to speedrun this game. I want to give this game an S+ tier right underneath Ocarina, because it's so different of a Zelda game. It's so unique in its own style that I love it. And with that being said, next game. Alright, now this is where it gets a little wonky because Season and Ages I actually have not played ever. So I had to get outside source information from a friend who loves these games and completely adores them. And if she could, she would put this at the top of the list, but I told her to give her honest opinion overall, and she gave me a correct tier answer, but she explains it like this. The games connect in terms of stories, as if you beat one, you can continue on the other one, and vice versa. So it's a continuation of a game. So you beat, let's say, Seasons, you get a code, and then you go to Ages, and you get an alternate ending, which is amazing. I never even knew that existed, and I have to give this game a try. As I said, my friend told me everything about this, so that alternative ending actually will cause you to face Twinrova and Ganon, giving you the game's true ending. But, you know, you're worrying about, okay, why did I have to buy 2 games? The game back then actually came as a pair, which was pretty crazy. So I haven't played this game personally, and my friend Shady gave this game a perfect rating of a B tier. And she said for the main reason of this game having an alternative ending when you actually beat one and then continue on the next. It was pretty crazy. So next game. Okay, so 4 swords. Four Swords, I don't actually know a lot again. This is one of the games that I never really played because I had no friends to play the game with. Now, as far as I know, there wasn't really too much of a story. So you basically grab your friends, you go on this multiplayer adventure, you solve puzzles together, and it's really unique to like the style of a Zelda game, as it's always been single player, and now you have a multiplayer Zelda game. It kind of messes with what I said earlier, how Zelda has been a social game and being multiplayer strictly through just talking about the game, but this was literal multiplayer Zelda. Now, because I personally have never really played this game, I don't want to give it a D tier, I don't want to give it an A tier, I'm just going to give it a C tier, and I want you guys to come up in the comments with your own opinion on where Four Swords should be. But for right now, personally, I'm going to put this at a C tier. But I would love to hear in the comments where you guys think that Four Swords should be placed at. Wind Waker is one of my favorite art styles in Zelda. I mean, Toon Link is just a goofy and silly looking character. That's why he's my profile pick. He has the best resting bitch face, just the best resting face as a whole, and I adore this art style. It's my YouTube banner, it's my YouTube profile pick, it's my Discord pick. I love the Zelda art style for Wind Waker. But the world and the style of the game is so aesthetically pleasing. The atmosphere of the world is truly beautiful, and the soundtrack is honestly a banger. I mean, listen to this overworld theme that's playing right over my voice. Wow! Now the story starts with a cool looking blonde bimbo waking up from his 126-hour nap in the titty watching tower, and it's his birthday, so his sister comes over, tells, you know, your grandma's got some weird ass grandma cookies for you, and you're all like, grandma, today is the day to celebrate, it's my birthday. So you become the same age as the heroes spoken from the legends that your grandma just assumes that you're that legend or something. So you're like, what the hell, grandma, get off my D, I don't want to be a hero. But you just kind of accept it anyway because Toon Link is Toon Link and he doesn't care. So grandma gets in all your shit about learning how to fight or whatnot, and basically, so you go back to your host sister and she gives you a birthday present with a titty watching telescope to spying on the town's titties. But then you look at the titty towns and oh no, there's a girl being carried by some bird. Oh, and then she gets dropped, you know, you have to go save her. So you have to learn the way of the sword, yada yada yada, and then you save her, and then all of a sudden your sister gets stolen, and it's like this whole thing. And that's basically the beginning of the game. The whole stuff with Tetra actually turning out to be Zelda, I know, spoiler alert, and you learning about the Triforce, how the world became flooded, how Ganon flooded the world. And again, the Hero of Time is referenced in this, telling you that the Hero of Time sealed Ganon, and Ganon came out and flooded the world, which just proves another point that the Hero of Time is so influential, because this game would have never been made if it wasn't for the Hero of Time. But the only thing that I have wrong with the game is this like 20 butterfly bracelet thing that you pick up, the pendants. So you could trade 25 pendants, the butterfly ones, to the school teacher, and she gives you a fucking island. She gives you an island for 20 butterfly pendants. That makes no sense. But whatever, you get a free island and you get to play games on it, whatever. And the game itself has like mini games like all the other Zeldas, but this one really stuck out to me because of the voices, the amazing noises that this dude makes, like sploosh and kaboom is so fantastic. It makes the mini game so much better when the character has a silly voice like in this one. Now, as far as the world design, gameplay, characters, and the actual character development, yes, there's character development in this game, which is pretty new to a Zelda game as far as, you know, learning Tetra, learning Zelda, kind of how she is. No other Zelda game really had that. Ocarina was more just, here it is, this is Zelda, oh no, she ran away, or, you know, it didn't really have a lot of character development, but this one kinda did because you're traveling with Tetra. But the actual core gameplay, you use your wind tool, your wind kazoo, I know I said that in the tier list video one time, use your wind kazoo to basically redirect the wind. You're the hero of the wind. Forgot to mention that the boss battle itself is pretty hard. I remember my friend truly struggling on this Ganon fight, and I found it really fun. But other than the Ganon fight, there is something that I also forgot to mention. You actually get to see the King of Hyrule, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's never been a Zelda game other than the TV series where you actually get to see the King of Hyrule. I believe this is the first one where you physically have a conversation with him. Other than all that, this game definitely deserves an S tier. It's one of my favorite Zelda games, probably my top 3. You can assume what the other top 2 are. Now, Four Swords Adventures, it's similar to Four Swords, how I don't really know too much about it, because Four Swords is just a game that I couldn't play because I had no friends. So again, I'm just going to quickly put this at a C tier. For the same reason, similar to Four Swords, it's just, I didn't really have the friends to play it with, so I want you guys in the comments to put Four Swords Adventures and Four Swords where you guys think that it should be in this tier list. Just say in the comments, hey JMak, you're stupid. Four Swords Adventure should be at A tier, and give me a reason why. Just don't call me stupid. Minish Cap is something that I never really played too much. I played it once and I was basically done with it, but basically the story goes like this. There's Eslo and then there's Vati. Eslo is the master or the master magician of Vati. Vati was the apprentice, and they're both Minish people. I think that's what they're called, Minish. I think just Minish, not Minish people. But anyway, Vati witnessed Eslo make this magical cap that had the power to grant wishes, and Vati stole it, made himself a powerful sorcerer, and yeah, turned Eslo into a hat. Vati goes on a huge spree of, you know, evil doing. Eventually, Link meets Eslo. They become one. Eslo's kind of like the Navi, you know, the Fi. It's just the navigator of the game, which every Zelda kind of has one. Eslo is that being. Throughout the entire game, there's constant talk between Eslo and Link, and some of the dialogue is just too funny. But essentially, the ending, you know, you have to get these 4 different elements of earth, water, fire, air to power up the Four Sword. The Four Sword is kind of like the Master Sword. It is an evil banishing power to essentially kill Vati. It's a basic Zelda game. From what I remember having a ton of fun in this game, and honestly, I keep hearing chatter about this game being such a good Zelda game, so I have to put this at the top of the B tier. Alright, next game. Now, Twilight Princess is a very dark and what the kids call nowadays the edgy version of the Zelda games, but the game is very enjoyable, challenging, and very story-driven at times. I'll just call it TP for now because TP is way better than saying Twilight Princess. So TP starts in the most boringest way I can possibly think of. I mean, it's not just boring, it is drooling boring. It's the longest process possible from the time you start to get basically the warping as Wolf Link. That's the beginning in my book. But this isn't even a major complaint. The game itself is fun, like I said. It's more of just a personal, like, grr, I hate you because you're boring. Putting goats in a shed 3 freaking times kind of gets old, but the game is fun. So the game starts off with Big Boy Link in his village, and he has a girlfriend, which is kind of strange to a Zelda game. You're used to Zelda and that good old Zelda booty. But this one, he actually has a girl that he has to impress other than Zelda. But there's also 3 different people you have to impress, these kids in the village for some weird reason. And one of them looks like Boss Baby over here. I mean, look at this kid. Boss Baby, am I right? That kid is actually one of the best because he makes the Malo Mart, and it's hilarious. So after you impress these kids, they flip shit, you know, and then they decide to chase a monkey. They get captured by a gang of trolls. You save them, and that's kind of where the beginning sort of starts of the game. That's where the hero's journey, the hero's call kind of starts. And when I said the beginning was long, this is kind of like part 1 out of 4 of the beginning. After you do all that, you got to put the goats away again for the second freaking time. And then you get jumped, turned into a wolf. Then you're stuck in a prison cell. You meet Minda. Minda's a badass. She's pretty straight up cool. And now this is kind of where part 2 starts, where you're Wolf Link and you have to go turn back to the human form. So you have to go back to the town. Minda actually, before this, talks about Zant. She kind of explains who Zant is just a little bit. So when you go back to the town, you have to go steal the sword and shield as Wolf Link, which the entire town is for some reason like deathly afraid of wolves. I mean, when you get spotted, they freak the fuck out. And then one of the most annoyingest things I think I have in this game is like the teardrop system. There's a system like this in Skyward, but we'll talk about that. But this teardrop system is the worst, and you have to do it as Wolf Link. It's so time consuming and just annoying. But once you get past of all the teardrops, because I believe there's 3 total ones, it's not bad. The game actually starts to pick up. And like I said, once you get past those boring parts and you start going to the temples, the game is phenomenal. After all of that, the 3 parts, you going back to human, this is kind of where part 4 starts. The real, you know, part of the game. This is what I consider the end of the beginning and the game starts. Is right when you go to Kakariko Village and you start to do, you know, you start to wrap shit up. This is kind of where that 5 to 6 hour of playing of the beginning part kind of takes place. Now, some people are not going to consider that the beginning, but honestly, it's like one big tutorial. It teaches you how to be, you know, Link, it teaches you how to be Wolf Link, it teaches you how to like transform and all that. It's literally just a big beginning. Even the temple is more of like the beginning temple. So it's a long beginning. Now this part, after you get to the Kakariko Village, this one scene in particular scared the living shit out of me as a kid. There's one scene where Link has this weird vision or dream or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but basically you get to see Link like all twisted with white eyes. It is horrifying. I'll play it. You guys, it's probably playing right now, but my god, it's demonic. It's probably the creepiest thing I think I've seen out of any Zelda game. One of the cool things about this game is the main bad guy that you think is the main bad guy, which is Zant, actually jumps you like mid-game, comes out of nowhere, beats the shit out of you guys like in a cutscene, and it's pretty crazy. That's never happened in a Zelda game. You've never actually encountered the big bad guy before, but technically he's not the big bad guy because he's just there as a pawn of Ganon, basically. So when you take care of all of that, this game is insanely long. We take care of all of that and Ganon comes in. The Ganon fight has to be probably one of the best and most exciting Ganon fights in the entire Zelda series. You get to ride on a horse, you get to beat the shit out of Ganon, you get to do a bow and arrow match off with Ganon. It is phenomenal. I cannot express how much I actually love this Ganon fight. If I had to put Ganon fights of all Zelda games on a tier list, this would be the top of the crop. Just because of the actual amazing storytelling of this game, the dark, unique aspect of the Twilight Realm where you actually get to see all of Minda's stuff. She has an entire backstory. You have a backstory. You have a different girlfriend that you ditched for Zelda. I don't remember if you get with Zelda in the end. I actually don't remember. I don't think you do. But all of that combined, this game 100% deserves an S tier of just so many different pieces of the puzzle coming together to make this game so good. Now, Phantom Hourglass, I want to talk about this one pretty quickly, but as a middle school JMak, I remember this very vividly, this exact moment. I had an action replay for this game and I cheated the crap out of this game. I had 1 billion bombs, I was unlocking areas that I wasn't supposed to go. It was a blast, but when I actually played the story for the story, it was kind of annoying for most parts. The temples were probably one of the most underwhelming temples in the entire game. It was very annoying to use the hourglass and have a timed section for each temple. It was unique, but it was annoying. It didn't play that well. But everything else about the game was fantastic. The story was cool. It was a successor to Wind Waker, which I loved Wind Waker. Now this game utilized the DS feature to its fullest potential. I mean, it was using the movement for the DS touchpad, it was using the swinging, you would have to draw on your maps, remember locations, you can map out where you want to go with the boat, you had to know specific locations, specific turns and circles to get to the north area. It was pretty intuitive for the most part. The temples were just not doing it for me. I remember one part as a kid where I got to the ghost ship. There was one puzzle with the ghost ship that I could not complete. It was physically impossible. The game just would not let me progress. I don't know if my game was busted, but I have never truly beaten this game on my own. But with all the things I said previous about the game itself was pretty fun with the mechanics that the DS actually utilized. The only bad thing I have about this game is the temple. So I'm going to give this game a solid B tier. Here we go. Okay, so remember when I said that there's 2 bad Zelda games? This is the second one. Now, if you actually like this game, there's something wrong with you. You need your eyes checked or your brain checked, one of the two. If you actually enjoyed Spirit Tracks, you need to be stoned by a group of furries, which is the most disrespectful way to be stoned possible. This game felt very out of place out of the entire Zelda series because trains, you're a conductor and you take care of trains. It just makes no sense. I've heard a lot of stories of people actually having fun with this game, and like I said, if you have fun with this game, that's great. By all means, this is your game, man. It is not my game. I honestly cannot wait for Zelda Ice's Flight Simulator. Can't wait until Link learns those good old flying tricks. Woohoo! I'm gonna put this game at a Z tier for how shit it actually is. Oh boy. This is the game that I put off for 8 years, literally 8 years, and I just played this game recently, so it's fresh in my mind. Skyward Sword. I didn't want to play this game for the main reason of it being on the Wii remote control, and it was a horrible experience when I was playing it. Let me just say that that was the worst gaming experience I've ever had in my entire life. The Wii remote, trying to reconfigure it every 5 minutes, it was horrible. I absolutely hated it. But my friend convinced me, we played it, and honestly, I have to admit, this game's story was phenomenal. It explained everything about the first Link, first Zelda, first Ganon. Technically, it was Demise, but the Demise goes, it's like the spirit of Ganon, basically. It explains everything. It explains the entire story of Zelda, and it sets everything up, and it's phenomenal. The actual part of the dungeons and the temple temples and how many times they utilize the same 3 spots, you'd think you'd be sick of going to the same 3 spots over and over again, but they utilize it so well, so precise, and they unlock different areas of those same spots that it feels fresh every single time you go down there. Now I have to admit that every single time you fight the big weird toe monster, I'm forgetting the name at the top of my head, but whenever you feel that, it's very, very annoying to fight it like 6 different times. That was kind of annoying, but other than that, the mini games are really fun, and there's a dude who's trying to accomplish like 10,000 push-ups, and if you give him a potion, he actually does 10,000 push-ups. Now Breath of the Wild got a lot of inspiration from this game. They used the same sounds for like getting an item. They used the sprint system. There's side quest in this game, which they obviously used in Breath of the Wild. This game was heavily inspired to make Breath of the Wild's kind of core gameplay, but as I said before, that first game was the whole concept of creating Breath of the Wild, that adventure sense type. I'm gonna give this game an A tier. It was silly, it was fun, it had a really good story, but again, that Wii remote just, it was horrible. It would have been an S, but just, man, that Wii remote. But if you guys have never played Skyward Sword, I highly recommend it. The story is just really what drives the entire game. Now we have Link Between Two Worlds. This game is the successor to Link to the Past. It takes the dark world, makes something very interesting out of it. It gives you the ability to actually turn into like Paper Mario type shit, where you can explore both the light and the dark side of the world while going into the wall. It makes the dungeons very unique when you actually have to get like inside the wall, go around corners, go on the outside of the building. It makes the dungeons a lot harder, more unique. And again, there's a pattern to all these Zelda games. Each Zelda game is just fresh with new and unique ideas, and this was another title that just brought another unique idea. Now the story for Link Between Two Worlds is a huge twist. I was never expecting it when I was playing the game, and I love this game mainly just because of this twist. We've never really had a twist in a Zelda game, and this was it. This was the crazy one. So in the world, you meet a Princess Hilda, which is the counterpart to Zelda, kind of. She helps you imprison someone called Yuga, who is the main bad guy of the series. Go through its entire journey, basically imprisoning Yuga just to get the Triforce of Courage. Right at that moment, Hilda ends up betraying you, and I mean, it goes to shit from there. You end up getting the Bow of Light, you have to fight Yuga again, and then Zelda comes and helps you seal the Sacred Realm, bringing light back to Hyrule right in front of Hilda and Ravio, which Ravio is your counterpart, also the merchant from the beginning of the game. He actually reveals himself. And yeah, I mean, that's the game in a nutshell. There's definitely a lot more than what I'm explaining. I'm just trying to really surmise the game real quickly. This game was really, really fun to play. You even had the running boots from Link to the Past because it's a successor to it. It sort of had the same art style to Ocarina 3D, which I kind of like that art style, but I like Wind Waker the best. You had an energy gauge that would actually regenerate over time for the gameplay, and then, like I said, going through the wall and all the other game aspects of making dungeons more unique. Now this game was, I'm gonna put this game at an A tier as it deserves it. I actually, the first time played it, I 100% of the game because it was so much fun to actually play through, and I would 100% play this game again. Now Triforce Heroes, I'm gonna put the Triforce Heroes with all the other 4-sword ones. C tier is more of gonna be like, you guys decide where I put it, because I have no idea where to put Triforce Heroes, because that's another game I had no friends to play with. I'm sorry. Please do the work for me. Here we are at the end of the line with Breath of the Wild, literally the game that I think changed the most out of any other Zelda game, as this game I wouldn't even consider myself as a Zelda game because how different the game is. Now, traditional Zelda games, like all the other ones we talked in the past, had a specific formula, you know? You had someone to save, you go to the temples, you get what you needed to get, and you go. That was a traditional Zelda in my own kind of sense. I think a lot of you guys can agree with that. Now, Breath of the Wild doesn't do that. It breaks all bounds of the traditional Zelda sense, which in my eyes, I don't see it as a Zelda game, but that doesn't excuse the fact that it's super transformative. It's probably one of the most innovative Zelda titles out of the entire series. It's super fun. It has the best open world play that I think any other AAA company has ever done, like Fallout, Far Cry, whatever that has an open world. This completely takes the market by surprise. It is a phenomenal game. I mean, you can literally do anything you want. There's people making YouTube videos of just the randomest things, like shield surfing while doing a backflip, while doing an arrow shot to some. It's crazy on how much you can do with this game. You could time stop a rock, hit the rock, get on top of the rock, and like lunge yourself. It's just so much to this game. The story goes like this. I could describe this game in 2 simple words: shield riding. This game is the shield riding adventure of the Zelda series. Join us as our main character, Lump, rides through victory. The game is a successor to Kirby Air Ride. The games that many fans remember from the Zelda series really truly treasure Kirby Air Ride, one of the greatest Zelda games that you can ever possibly imagine. Now, similar to Kirby Air Ride, you can move left to right while riding your shield. But in this game, you can actually walk off, but you can only do it for 3 seconds just to get back on your shield. And now I'm kidding, that's just a joke. There's really not a lot of words that I can do to describe this game other than just phenomenal. It definitely deserved Game of the Year. This game is the definition of freedom. You have the ultimate freedom in this game, and this game 100% deserves the S+ tier for how amazing it actually is. Now, the Zelda series is something so special to me. It's such a big part of my life because I've been playing these games since my childhood, and now it's something that I can show my kids when I'm older. One day, I honestly dream about the moment where I can sit down and play Zelda with my son, daughter, you know, adopted Chinese boy. Who the fuck knows what's gonna happen to me in 5 years. But there's one thing that I really didn't mention that applies to all these games is the music. I talked about the music very briefly, but every single game has its own music style that really just encapsulates each game. Now, Wind Waker, you have Dragon Root Island, which I personally think is my favorite out of the game. Ocarina of Time, you have so many. You have Song of Storms, Gerudo Valley, Twilight, you have Minda's Lament, and all those songs that I mentioned are playing in the background of this entire video to just really establish what I'm saying and really emotionally attach you to these games, because those songs single-handedly will just untie you to the entire Zelda series. When I'm streaming on Twitch, on my Twitch channel, JMak_, yes, there's an underscroll, I'll sometimes play Zelda music because it's just super relaxing and it's really fun to listen to. Whether or not you agree on this tier list of Zelda, a lot of Zelda fans can definitely agree upon one thing. The franchise is something special to you and me, and it's unique in its own genre. No other game has ever really done something like this, where it's go save the princess, and each game that came out after that made it something different. No game has ever done this. No franchise have ever done something like this. Zelda is truly special and deserves all the love in the world. And with this insanely long video, remember guys to unsub, like the video. Until next time, hiya! That's my Link impersonation. My goodness. Peace.